Good morning. Thank you for braving the big winter storm that hit. And got your sleigh out and got all up here, and I really appreciate that. We appreciate that. Also, I'm sure you all had a great St. Patty's Day, I hope, and now you're probably on the ibuprofen and that kind of thing from the fun that you've had. So I hope it was a lucky time for you, and however you define that. So welcome all, welcome on those of you on Zoom, and some of y'all who will be watching this next week, as our lovely tech director puts this meeting on YouTube every week for you to come back to them, and there's some great ones to come back to.
Jamie, that's the third time this week you've referred to me as lovely.
Hey man, I had a great vacation. And it was funny, Jason said when I was on vacation that he made my wife say that it graded from a 1 to a 10 on, it had to be an 8.5 or higher of how much I'd focus on work, or he'd kick me when I got back. And so then okay, we did a good job of that, but then there's pirate ships going by. And I'm like, how do I, all I could do is think of Jason. I'm like, geez. But hey, I could be thinking of worse things, right?
Not really.
Not really. Well, thank you all so much. We're gonna get started here. We'll, do what we usually do, but then we're gonna do a dive into Gary's vision speech, and hopefully there'll be some communication with that. Back and forth, hear your thoughts. And let's get rolling. The mission for Keller Williams International is build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, lives worth living, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. And because we love to make sure we focus on people who are doing that, let's give Jim Lee a round of applause. I don't know if you saw the laundry list of things she does and has done. It's very impressive. But recently she got nominated because she was just nominated also a top 500, or named a top 500 agent for the second year in a row. And she was a finalist for the Rise and Grind Award for her hard work as recognized by her peers. So that's kind of a big deal. So we have a lot of people who I think are a big deal here. So we love promoting them. So please let us know other people that you're working with when they do something that you think is special. Sometimes it's just finally recognizing someone who does something every day that's heroic, which is maybe just getting the kids to school. But people who you respect, things that you see, we want to make sure we all know. And as well, we want to make sure their sphere knows these things about you that had over 3,000 hits. So she'd be a Hall of Famer in baseball. For sure, for sure. So, hey, speaking of Hall of Famers, let's welcome up Toddy. Here's your dinger.
Okay, hello. March Madness is happening, and you can scan this QR code to get your bracket all set up. Grace set hers up the other day, and
It's not very good.
yeah, so you might have a good chance. Just kidding. I know absolutely nothing about March Madness, so yeah. And then part 3 of the classes that Tom, or the finance department has been doing, is happening on March 20th at 1:30 p.m. I know the last class was a little light in attendance, so I think you should really come because it's really valuable. Tom's taking time out of his day to teach you things that are really important. And people ask about this stuff all the time, and we're offering it, so you should really come. So make sure you put that on your calendar for 1:30 on the 20th. Supper Club is tomorrow at North Star Tavern at 6 p.m. And if you're planning to be there, please let Misha know so that they can reserve the correct amount of seats. I will be there, Grace will be there, Misha will be there.
Maria's coming.
Maria's coming, Jason, Kelly, I don't know. It'll be a good time.
Yes.
Oh wait.
Patrick Woods might be there.
Kelly Marshall's coming. She's not
Ooh,
here.
okay. Okay, and then Leverage Series is next week on the 26th and 27th. with Patrick Woods, and this is the 30, 60, 90 and the career visioning. So if you've been thinking of hiring an admin, or if you just need leverage, you wanna know more about the career visioning process, this is the place to be. So make sure that you get signed up for that. Beat the Algorithm is happening with Rachel Adams Lee on Thursday, April 10th from 11 to 1 p.m. in here. We've had her here a couple of times, but she really knows her stuff when it comes to social media, and she's super valuable in that aspect. So for $25, that's a really great deal. Make sure that you also get that one on your calendar. And then Don't Get Fined, Get Compliant class with Melissa is happening on March 25th at 1:30. So put that on your calendar. And then the 36 touch class with Jennifer Toomer is coming on the 25th at 9:30 to 11. So that would be a really great class because you can go to that one and then you can go to Melissa's class. So
Do
that
you wanna speak to that real quick?
Yeah, she's incredible. She's a friend of mine. Was a team leader for 15, 20 years. She's led very small market centers. She was the leader of KW Anchorage, Alaska, when they were the #1 market center in the whole entire system with like 500 agents. She's coached a ton of realtors and top producers. So she's, I think you'll just love her in general. And she's coming into town for the Q1 Leadership North Central Region meeting that afternoon. And of course, like we've said before, we will give special treatment to Keller Williams Preferred Realty when speakers from across the country come into town. So please fill the room for Jen Toomer.
Can you say the time again, please?
9:30.
Thank you. 9:30 to 11, yeah. And then this is really cool. The luxury community is putting this on. It is a Parade of Homes luxury tour. So they are getting a bus. There's food and beverage provided. Early bird pricing is $35, and right now I think there's only 3 spots left. Okay, there's only 3 spots left.
Woo!
So that's really, really awesome. However, if you want to get on the bus, make sure that you sign up.
Like now.
Like,
Oh, too late.
yeah, no competition or anything. Yeah, so there's only 3 spots left. That's gonna be super fun.
I'll be trailing the bus, so you can hop in my car if you don't make it. A little short bus.
Okay.
I'm not gonna have food and drinks, but I do wanna recognize Brian, Drake, and Lisa for the part of the food and beverage provided, so let's give them a round of applause. And for paying for half of it, both, thank you. Oh, you didn't know that?
And thank you for the luxury community for heading this up. This is really cool. This is nothing that we've ever done before, to my knowledge, so I love it. Okay, I'm done.
Nice, nice. Let's bring up our MCA.
So I know we're gonna be talking about a lot of numbers today, thank you. So be prepared for some more numbers, I'm sorry. But this is gonna be, while Gary's is talking more about nationwide and maybe a little bit international, this is gonna be talking a little bit more specific to our market in general. So, we call this LORE, language of real estate. I did this all this morning, and February 2025 was a excellent month. In terms of closed GCI for our market center, this was like the highest we've had since 2010 for January or February. It's the highest amount of GCI. That was, yeah, it was crazy high. I'm looking at all the numbers and it's like, nope. Of course, March, you get a little bit higher, but for January and February, it's crazy. So congratulations to everybody and thank you for all you do. So we are outperforming the market by 63% in closed production on the list side. So we are taking 63% more listings than the RMLS, so North Star. 70% on the sell side, so 70% more buyers. And then total, it's a 69% average, so we are taking the market share, so way to go on that.
Oh, okay, all right.
And now that was year over year, so that was in comparison to 2024. This is by last month in comparison. So almost 100% more than the market for closed listings. 30% on closed buyers and 50% for closed, for more than the market is doing. So we are definitely taking some market share. And for this year for February, we gave back $24,301 in profit share. Year to date, $33,585, but it's only January and February. So we're looking forward to watching that number climb.
Which that has to be the highest profit share February ever, right?
I think it was very close.
Like we barely break even in January and February every year, so to share that.
We're gonna say it is, way to go!
I'll pull it up, I'm just curious more than that.
So this is a side-by-side comparison of January and February. So you can see we had 60 closed units, 87 listings taken, and 28 listings sold in January, and then this is what we did in February. So 98 closed units, 60 listings taken, and 47 listings sold, and then there's the corresponding volume amounts for those. That's the total. Or yeah, year-to-date for total between the two closers. So for closed production total, we are 45% higher in volume than the market for previous month. It was fun filling out the LOR form because it changes to green when we're higher than 10%. And I think there was all but 3 boxes that were green, and these were like way higher than 10%. And you'll see as we get further in that there's some 3-digit increases. So it was pretty awesome. 90% higher in volume than the same period last year, and then 50% higher in market in units, 69% higher in volume, or in units for the previous year. That is for selling. That was the total, by the way. So this is the same information for selling, for buyers, and the same for listings. So a lot of big, I mean, these numbers. 119, 120. I mean, that's just amazing. And then that is a recap of just the market in units versus last month for the 3, listing, buying, and then the total amount. So here's a shareable for you. I can get this out to you, or Grace can get this out to you, put it on the Facebook page so that y'all can share it with everybody, but I mean, we're taking command of the market with these numbers, so that's absolutely huge.
Nice.
Olivia, did you find the profit share
I
number?
did. February of 2022 was 25,201. However,
Okay, so we don't count that because
yes,
that was
so that was
a
anomaly.
psychotic year, so.
However, the second closest month to that, in any February, was 11,000 in 2021. So to be at 24,000 in 2025 with a tough year last year, great job.
I also happen to have the numbers here, and I want to point out that that profit share puts us on track for any year, is better than any year we've had on year to date, period.
Yeah.
So, period, even better than the pace we had in 2021 and 2022 right now. So
Yeah.
we're trending ahead of those numbers.
Actually,
Everyone
yeah,
can take a
and then
break.
once we
No,
have-
do not listen to Jamie, keep doing
When's the best time to
what
sell a house?
Right now.
When you just sold one.
So with that,
Hilarious.
No bricks.
Brian and Drake.
Okay, as part of our, we've been kind of doing an approval process series. Talked about loan to value, debt to income ratios, FICO scores, credit and credit waiting periods on like bankruptcies and foreclosures. Drake's gonna touch on the seller credit or seller paid closing costs available depending on the particular program. Then I'm gonna touch on the underwriting process.
Yeah, so let's just touch on the differences between the loan programs and the down payment amount and how that affects how much you can ask for in seller paid closing costs. So just starting with conventional here, if you're putting anywhere from less than 10% down, you're allowed to ask for up to 3% seller paid closing costs. And then if you're putting more than 10% down, but less than 25% down, you're able to ask for 6%, up to 6% in closing costs on a conventional loan. And then if you're putting more than 20% down, or 25% down on a conventional loan, you can ask for up to 9% in seller paid closing costs. And then also in the same kind of conversation, investment property, if you have an investment property you're dealing with, you can ask for up to 2% seller paid closing costs. FHA is a little bit more flexible. It doesn't matter how much you put down, you can always ask for up to 6% seller paid closing costs. And then similarly, VA, you can always ask for 4% in seller paid closing costs. Doesn't matter how much you put down. And obviously in VA situation, you're usually not putting anything down. So that's the gist of it. You know, there's not much to it, but you know, since we had those changes with the NAR settlement last year, I think it's just an important topic to discuss and to have for your records. And if you guys ever kind of want this cheat sheet, reach out to Brian and I, and we'll actually get your branding information on there so you can post it on your social media accounts. So.
All right, so as far as the approval process, it's really only as good as the information that you plug in.
So just make sure you click on the mouse there, and it'll take us so you can scroll through it.
Well, that didn't work.
Oh.
He clicked on.
Wrong way.
Sure.
There we go, I made it back.
Back
How am
to
I scrolling?
You go here.
All right, so we'll take the extra step to get the documentation, submit it to an underwriter, and have them review it and sign off on it. Really valuable on maybe a more complicated self-employed, or they've got corporate taxes in, or multiple businesses. So a lot of good reasons to have an underwriter take a look at it. I'm pretty good at taking a look at it myself, but especially on a complicated file, it's nice to have an underwriter signing off on everything. Now, all programs, FHA, conventional, VA, FHA, they all now are geared around some form of automated system, all right? And again, it's only as good as the information you plug in. If I plug in, somebody's making $50,000 a month instead of $5,000 a month, all right, I'm gonna get an automated approval. And then underwriter's gonna get it later and say, well, what are you doing here? No, it's only $5,000, all right? So that's another reason it's a good idea to have an underwriter take a look at it, so you're not finding out the day before closing instead of 3 weeks before closing. So as an example, this is an actual customer who will try to, this is what we plug in, you run it through the, let's call it a computer approval. And underwriters underwrite off of this as well. So people, they've, gone through all the models, and DU, desktop underwriting, will say this is a good FHA loan, or whatever the program we're trying to get. They will, it's been refined so that now an underwriter goes off of this exactly like we do. So if it says, if it spits out, hey, you need, 2 years of tax returns, we've got to get them. But depending on the information we plug in and get verified, we might only need last year's W-2, so it depends on the program. And it depends on the credit worthiness. So in this situation, we've got a 95% loan to value and a combined loan to value of 101%, meaning there's probably, this is actually a Minnesota housing loan where there's a first and a second on top of it, all right? So we're looking at things like a total debt to income ratio of 39%. But the housing expense report ratio is 38%, meaning almost all their debt is going to be tied up into this new housing payment. They might have just a $60 credit card payment. Even though most programs, almost every program will go to 45% maximum debt ratio, they won't go to a maximum housing ratio of 45%. Okay, meaning if their whole entire debt is the housing payment, you can possibly go to 45%, but there's programs that won't let you go that high on if the whole debt ratio is all housing. That makes sense, okay? But it depends on what the findings say, all right? I'm already click here and I know I'm gonna.
I think we can scroll now. I think
Not scroll.
it's not scrolling for you? Is it, wait, want you to exit out of that? There we go.
All right, so it just gives the sale price and a loan to value debt ratio. It'll give us whether we can get an appraisal waiver, if the credit scores are high enough or the debt ratio is low enough. So we'll see if we can get an appraisal waiver. It'll look at various factors. Risk factors. First-time home buyer is actually a positive risk factor. We'll get, tell us what the property address, make sure that property is in, depending on certain markets, if it's available for whatever program we have. Okay, it's saying, yep, there's also a possible line of credit that we've entered. There's gonna be mortgage insurance required. Here are the debts that are showing up. These are the kind of verifications we're gonna have to do: employment verifications, income verifications. We get an IRS form, let's say they just W-2. Well, these days somebody can, not me, but a lot of people can generate something that looks like a W-2. Hey, get me approved. Well, we have to go to the IRS for IRS tax transcripts, basically a fraud prevention tool to make sure that, the taxes are legit and they've been filed. We might only just need a W-2 and a pay stub. Self-employed, we probably are gonna need 2-year tax returns. But there's a random situation where we might only need 1 year of tax returns on self-employed. So, and that might be something we're looking at. Oh geez, 23 was not good, 24 was awesome. Let's get that filed because we only need 1 year. So we'll look at that, might be a way to save it. Some income, verify income. Okay, there's overtime and base employment. We need to figure that out. We need to make sure we go through that. Verifying assets. Now, in this one, if a customer says, hey, we're doing a lot of this up front. I got 20 grand in the bank and this is what I make. Okay, plug all that in. Hey, that looks good. We can get you approved for what you're looking to buy. Send me your pay stubs, W-2, send me the documentation. Suddenly his income was overtime and he just started getting that in January. Well, guess what? We're probably not gonna be able to use that because overtime, bonus, commission, typically we need a 2-year average to be able to use that. Okay, so says he's got 20 grand in the bank, we get the bank statement. Well, I'm gonna get my bonus in May and it's gonna be 15 grand. Well, we don't have that now, but we will, if we plan around that, we can use it at some point. I think I have one other item on here. So on Minnesota Housing, there's max income levels. You can't make 300 grand and do a Minnesota Housing. They're not interested in helping us on that. So there's median income. And 80% of the median income for the location, which is 123. So that is about 98 grand. Well, I've got a customer, let's say, I make 90 grand. But we also have bonus of 15 grand. That's something else. Suddenly we have too much income for this program. So I'm always, how do we get that income higher? Well, in this case, we can't get it too high. So those are things that we're looking at. Anyways, that is what I have. Any questions on this? I know there's just a lot of, that's what we're looking at on every single file. We're we're running it through the system. Let's see what it spits out and what we can get approved. Oh, you know, our debt ratio is too high, okay, then let's, if we eliminate this debt and this debt, our debt ratio is 44%, let's rerun it, approval. All right, so those are the things we're looking at.
And Brian made a good point too, when you touched on earlier that, you know, a lot of lenders are just doing this. They're just doing the automated system to approve their, you know, issue their pre-qualifications. And so we at New American Funding, we take the extra step to get them fully underwritten and approved. So not only are we going through the automated system, but they're gonna go through an underwriter, and we're gonna obtain all the documentation to make sure that there are no hiccups later on. And so whenever you run into those issues, you know, halfway through the loan or 10 days before closing, it's usually because they're not, you know, going through the full underwriting process up front. It's just that they're going off of based what the automated system says. They're like, oh yeah, this person's good to go, issue the pre-approval, and then down the road, they got a bank statement and it shows, you know, that they have too much in the bank for this down payment assistance program or something like that, so.
Once you put the numbers in, you can spit an answer out fairly quickly.
Yes. I mean, we're basically watching spinning wheel for about 10 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Three main takeaways for me on that is A, they know their stuff. B, Drake's got a really cool sweatshirt on. And C, I'm glad you guys are doing that, not me.
Hey, Jason. Kill these front lights.
Attack and kill.
Don't need to shoot him with a gun, just kill him.
All right, so one of the things we talked about when we make sure we have a certain cadence in this, when it comes to our team meetings and such, is that we hit numbers. So we want to talk more about numbers. We heard about lore. One thing I know I can't be, and this is Gary's vision speech, I can't be Gary. However, I can kind of be Gary. That's right, that's right. This won't be some airy-fairy presentation. Okay? Let's be real.
That's right.
That's right, that's exactly right.
I was waiting for you to look up.
She knows better.
Gonna get on a plane, go back to Colombo.
So why are we doing this though? Because, well, we're professionals, right? So we wake up every day, one of the biggest things that we need to offer is perspective. So it's not just perspective for our clients, but perspective for ourselves. So let's jump into this. Now, some of you were either live at Gary's speech or were here for the live on Zoom speech. However, we just want to hit a couple high points. And if you've got an observation, we'd love for you to throw it out there, okay? So starting off on a high note, 2024 recorded the lowest home sales since '95. Isn't that hunky-dory? Look at this. So all the way since 1995. So I think a lot of you might have noticed that your units are down, right? So just so you understand perspective, that's normal. That's normal, that's what we're seeing here. Historic recovery, historically it takes from downturns 3 to 4 years. So again, if you look, what does that say?
We're starting to recover.
Yeah, historically we're on our way, right?
And they're
Historically we're on
projecting
our way.
4.2. So I think it'll be higher than that.
Nice, you wanna tell Gary that? Tell Mr. Rollins.
Well, Gary's got a whole bunch of people behind him,
Lord help
pulling numbers together. I only have myself.
No, you're right. Well, there's a lot of factors, and we'll get into it, that probably will break that open, right? And real quick, I just want you to take a moment, because you're sitting here and have gotten through this, right here, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. That's because Olivia's leaving. Let's do another one. Just kidding. Okay, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. All right, home price is annual. And by the way, Jason is also known as Jason Abrams, so he's a part of the He's got some great perspective on this. This is a famous slide that you all should have. If you don't, email me, I'll get it to you. This is the annual trends. Long-term real estate always follows this 4% clip. The government, our economy depends on real estate always growing at a clip of 4% over time. So you are selling something, connect to KW.com right there.
Get your own slides, don't wait for Jamie's.
Yeah, well, I'm an expert at sliding. Anyway. Not enough, I think, on that base. So anyway, don't get me off track anymore, because it just goes downhill as far as slides go. But so thankfully, we're in an industry where everyone depends on our opportunities to grow, right? Home prices right now are at about a 10% clip over trend, and if prices stagnate for 2.5 years, they would return to historical trends. So if we do see a little downturn in home prices, that can be a good thing. Total market volume. So despite the low transaction numbers, this is where it gets good. 2024 ranked the third highest year in total market volume since, well, through 1999. That's why you might not have hit your unit goals, however you hit your money goal. So that's the good news, is you're making more per opportunity. Fewer deals are closing, but the overall volume remains strong. 60% of the agents in the country sold nothing in 2024. Well, no houses, anyway. And that means that he believes generating leads is really what's been the difference between those people that have and have not. And he says that although the number of active real estate agents are high, but the competition, this is interesting, the competition per transaction is still relatively low. Most buyers and sellers are really only working with 1 or 2 agents. So it's interesting, there's a lot of agents, there's 1.5, however, there's less transacting, and those who are transacting more, and buyers and sellers are only focusing on 1 or 2 agents to work with. Inventory annual is slowly increasing. Those of you who don't know, this is the 6% line right here. 6-month line, by the way. So anything below here is a seller's market, anything above here is a buyer's market, and this is balanced. So as you see, we're still in a seller's market. However, when pricing, we've got to remember that it's not just about if it's a seller's market, it's also about what's the trend and how fast is it going that direction. So it's pricing our homes ahead of the market. Anything you have, Jason Abrams?
I just think it's encouraging that we're moving, that our inventory is building. It's important for market, because in the end, it's liquidity that where we thrive. The more transactions that are occurring in the market, more houses that are available in the market, the more opportunities we have. And that brings in more sellers and buyers when the market is moving well.
Before we open it up real quick, also online, I forgot to mention on Zoom, Grace is monitoring that, so if you have a question or comment, or maybe even a dad joke, she may not tell me the dad joke to tell you or to say. However, if you have a question, please bring it up. Melanie?
I was just wondering, last year before all the paperwork changed in August, a representative from NAR was here, and she was speaking with the broker in Maple Grove. And she said that she was predicting that probably 25% of people that were agents were going to stop being agents this year. Do you foresee that happening?
I'm going to call out the Colin line and say none of our crystal balls are that clear. She seemed pretty definitive about it, and the numbers didn't bear her out. And I don't see I don't significantly see a significant difference in that this year. There has been a lot of fluidity in where people are brokered, and there have been some agents leaving the business. But as we saw on the slide, the numbers are not significant.
Well, I think there's been a fair number that have retired, but there's also a lot of new agents that have joined recently.
So in the end,
It's kind of a fluid thing,
Yeah.
when there's lots of sales, there are more agents. When sales drop off, it lags behind, so we lose agents. It's just a fact of life.
but I think to her question, your point, that we have not lost the number of agents that one would have guessed
Right.
In the market.
in the marketplace, even with the retiring, even with the down market, we haven't lost that many agents. But that's why Jamie pointed out, 60% of agents last year didn't do a single deal. I mean, if they're hanging on, that's an interesting choice to make. But when 60% of the people in the business aren't doing any deals, that means that the remaining 40% have a lot to do. So be in the 40. I know that sounds trite, but there are behaviors and actions and activities you can take that influence your outcomes. If you make those choices, that's where you want to be.
And when we're at this point here, people are gonna be more apt to hang on to their license because they make that much more per deal. If you get one transaction across your plate, you get a lot more. So there's more, you might do less deals, right? There might be less opportunities. However, if someone's gonna do one, maybe 2 deals a year, you're gonna keep your license because that's enough. So, that's enough.
Jamie, a sidebar on back up one. The months supply of inventory, there's predicting 3.7 in an ad for my raw report. Last week's report, I figured out that in the 7-county metro, our absorption rate is 2.1. And so we're a lot better off here than other parts of the country. So you could use this slide and just say, hey, they're predicting that last year they're saying the absorption rate was 3.1 for the whole country, but we were at 2. And I have all 7 counties with the absorption rate in the chart every week. So, and you could go to rpr.com if you're a member of the National Association of Realtors, and you can put in a zip code, and it'll tell you the absorption rate for that zip code if you're sitting down with a seller.
Thanks, that's a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
And who would like it if Steve gave us this version, but locally here next month? Huh? Who wants it? All right, Steve.
Okay.
And those of you who don't know that are new, Steve has been in the business for quite some time and is very well known for his raw report. He's incredible with the numbers and breaking it down, just as he said. And if you haven't subscribed to his monthly or weekly raw report email, please do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. You're so steadfast with it. We really appreciate that. Mortgage rates annual. This is another slide. If you don't have it in with your presentation materials, you definitely should. As you look at this, historically, the rates are averaging, or the recent history is right here, right around 6.5. So historically, we're right here, right in between the recent history and the more longer term from 1972 history. So ultimately, even though because of the direction of things with the way things have gone recently down here because of the pandemic, people might feel that this is high. However, I think with it trending down a little bit and people becoming more accustomed to this, it's important to point out to your buyers that this is normal. This is normal. And the rate breakdown. So this is what Gary says. This side of the pie is the 3% or less. People have 3 to 4% or less, and the 4 to 5s. This pie is going to keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because these people need to move at some point. It's hard to just stay in a home because of a rate, especially if your jobs change, things change, your family grows, such a thing. So these part of the pie will grow, this part of the pie will grow, and we'll see this part grow again. So as things normalize, that's a good thing for us. And another good news is that, well, actually 38% of all homes are mortgage free. That's a big number. 38% of all homes are mortgage free. And 76% of all home buyers have over 50% of equity. So there's opportunity in there with helping them maybe invest, use that money.
What was that, 60%?
Sure, the second number was 76% of homeowners have over 50% of equity. The other number was 38% of all homes are mortgage free. Mortgage isn't free, it means they paid it off. And here, as we know, whether buying or renting, someone's paying off the mortgage. Might as well have that be your equity. God bless you, sir. Might as well be your equity, right, when we're working with our buyers. So again, when we're working with our buyers, we want them to see this. Is there ever, if they have a long-term goal, is there ever a bad time to buy?
No.
No. They bought here when it was super high, but now they need to sell here. Are they better off? Yes. They need to know that. So make sure that this is in your presentation material. Also, again, the mortgage rates here, normalize what they're experiencing. This is what we're experiencing right now is normal. So remind them that if they're waiting on rates, they're gonna potentially miss some of their opportunities to dream home and whatever they might have, as well as, continuing to pay for someone else's equity. And another slide you can use to tell them the rent is just too damn high. This is one of my favorite. He just says, campaign saying the rent is too damn high. That's another reason to buy. All right. Numbers that drive the Canadian real estate. Colin couldn't be here, so he made a video about, those of you who don't know, Colin is from Canada, but he's also probably one of the most, I don't know how to define this, one of the most American people I know. He did a quick video to show us what it could be like in Canada right now.
You look so
You posted it online, girl.
I did. Unbelievable.
Now, for 1 second, try to be as quiet as you can. You gotta listen to Candace, because it sounds like she's filming. Ready?
You look so
So please, everybody, you can call it. Oh, Miss Mason!
Wow.
All right, good.
Good stuff.
Don't expect that in Gary's presentation next year.
So it's that good in Canada right now?
There we go. All right, let's get to some more
A little warm in here.
fun. That warms you up? That warms you up?
No, it's a little
That's awkward.
frightening. It is awkward. Leave it to Jamie to.
All right, so the U.S. economy, Gary did an in-depth dive, and actually Colin every year does an in-depth dive. If you want to go onto our YouTube channel and see when he does a great job of detailing, no dancing, just detailing how this all works, please do. It's very wonderful. I'm not going to attempt that. I do want to go through to this. One of the things when we were in here and I heard afterwards was there's just so much, there's a lot of consternation and people have concerns about all the different things and what trade policy and tariffs are, and we'll talk about that. It's definitely much more, oh, Colin, wait.
No, back it up before the video and say.
I got it. So the Canadian portion of this, right, we said that you weren't here, so you were able to give us a video that describes the Canadian situation right now.
You look so
Just kidding, I really want to call.
Okay.
That's what she said.
I gotta go.
So, please go back and reference his video on all this. And Gary did a great job of articulating how with tariffs and trade policy and a lot of the uncertainty that's around, it struck some fear, I think, into some people, which Gary's good at doing it in the right way, because he doesn't just make sure everything is hunky-dory, right? He's real, he's real. And, some of the takeaways, now takeaways from it is trade policies, corporate tax strategies, government revenue models, all shape, inflation, they all shape inflation, employment, economic stability, the intersection of the tariff situation, the labor shifts right now, and taxation policies this year could be a defining economic event. Now, so there's different, what's the word I'm looking for, different levers being pushed than we're used to, or at least they're very out there in the news. We're not used to them being as out there in the news. If you remember from last week, I did the shaking of the bottle and the attention and everything. Monitor your bottle fizz. When you are absorbing this information, just remember, we'll talk about it again, but it's no different than last year. Melanie brought it up last year with the changes with NAR. A lot of consternation, lots of hand wringing. Where are we? We're doing pretty damn good, right? So I do want to say this, and this might be a little bit, so bear with me on people on all ends of the political spectrum. And I have learned, gosh, it took a couple, 6 years, that if I got triggered hearing a political name, then I have a problem. For me, that means I'm getting too into it maybe, or that, because I can't change that. I can change how I can do it, how I vote, but I can't change that person, so why do I want to shake up my bottle? So I just want to say, so key perspective questions for those who heard Gary's speech. The bigger picture thinking. Bear with me. If the current president is as selfish and narcissistic as one side says, and as genius as the other side says, and his generational wealth is tied up in real estate, more so than any other president in history, do you think he'll let this industry fail? Okay, so no matter what we think of the president and what he stands for, how he articulates, whatever it might be that either you like or don't like, whatever it is, he's more invested in this than we are. So let that, when you're hearing the news, when you're hearing the clicks, the clickbait stuff on either side, just remember that he needs this industry to succeed because he has a lot more in it than us. And then the other concern I heard a lot of people talking about too is how mass deportations are gonna hurt the economy, right? And so I thought, well, how has it hurt it in the past? And so I pulled up this slide, and I'll have to get it to you if you want it. I don't remember the source right offhand. I didn't write it down, but. So we had an incredible economy, right, during this time with the Clinton administration. And there was a total of 12.3 million people deported. And here in the Bush administration, he was up there too. And then it all shrunk down even through Trump's last years. So the point being is there going to be potentially a lot of deportations? Yes. Will it affect our economy? Yes. Do we know officially how it's going to affect our economy? We really don't know. We really don't know if how that'll shift things around, because there's a lot of moving things. So why do I share this? Just constantly, we need perspective. Okay? You need your sanity. We need our sanity. And if we just click on the algorithm, which the algorithm was up there earlier, and speaking of politicians, Al Gore has no rhythm, so I don't know how, God bless the man, but have you seen him dance? So anyway, the algorithm tends to show us what we want to hear and what shakes us up and keeps us shook up. So I just want you to be clear of this, and if anyone of your clients asks about any of these things, what do you do? Watch the news. That's a good answer. Just like with NAR, you just say, what does that mean to you? You don't need to go into depth. You might go in a direction that offends them. You don't know. We don't know. Just, what does that mean to you? Right? Always start with a question. Any thoughts, questions about this? Am I nuts for bringing this up, or do you feel better that I brought this up?
Oh, that's a really powerful slide. I'm very glad you brought that up.
Yeah, the Clintons were very hawkish on that, and it is what it is, and our economy was amazing, the balanced budget, did a whole bunch of the stuff that was wonderful. So yeah. All right. US events, let's see where I am, I kinda lost track. Sides per agent, you all have 2 sides. That's that, no. Okay, this is interesting. So the average side per agent is 5.5 or 5.4 transactions. So that's not a real big increase right there, right? 5.5 on average. 60% of agents, we already talked about, don't sell anything. And if you're one of those agents, don't fret. Let's get into with Jason and get your 36 touch and get on the phone and find ways of contacting people and inviting to our events. Only 60 or 50, so he said officially then, that means only 56,000 agents are left in the business. From people who are really doing the most work, which I found that was very interesting. And let's see, choosing one or home here is not sustainable. Oh, we know that. All right, volume per agent. Some agents are much louder than others. Oh, that's okay. Fourth highest transaction volume agent in history. So this is check that out. So we already talked about it a little bit, but now it's the 4th highest volume per agent. And despite the fewer local total transactions, agents who generate the leads are performing well. Is that a shock? Is that a shock? You got leads, you're performing well. All right, Jason, you got anything to add?
Other than, I mean, that's all stuff we kind of talked about. Thanks to Melanie's question.
Yeah.
That, you know, we know that there are agents out there. It is your activity that produces activity. And if you spend, really the whole segment really has been, stay focused on the things that you can control and you'll produce the results that you're looking to produce. And if you get caught up in all the stuff at this point about the algorithm wants you angry or happy. It doesn't care which. It doesn't want you to be calm. And what provides calm is facts. So it's not interested in you providing a fact or an unbiased opinion. It wants you happy or upset, because either one of those means you spend more time doing the thing that they're hoping you do, which is stay on their site, so they can show more ads to you. So you're better off minimizing that, finding out the information you need, staying with the activities that drive results. And those activities are just reaching out and talking to people.
Speaking of reaching out and talking to people, it looks like Sarah and Mary are calling each other.
Well, you know, sometimes they do. I can appreciate why. It's a good time to be doing that.
Sorry, I had to get you. Well, great. Well, we're running lower on time, so I say we jump ahead to some things here. One of the things he said about distress sales, remember when we were worried about it? I think people started getting worried about, hey, maybe I should get prepared to do more. Again, how many homes are 50% in equity? So even if they're distressed, they've got a lot of give and take. Whereas back in '08, they didn't. There was no room. So therefore, we had a big issue.
Hey, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
Can you hold it there for a second? I talk every once in a while about, and where you have people ask you, why is there a shortage of houses, right? This slide illustrates it. This is the trend line of how many we were building a year, about 1 million a year. And we were above that trend line. I remember I had a client who went to Miami, bought a condo before the thing ever even came out of the ground. And then he sold it when it was done, and he made about 30 or 40,000. There was a lot of that going on in 2005 and 6. But we went from 1 million, so here's 600,000 houses that didn't get built, another 600,000, another 600,000, 500,000, 400. You add all that together, there's about 2.4 million houses that did not get built. That's one of the reasons we have a shortage. And not to get political, but if you think, some people say there were 10 million people came here illegally, some say 20 million, just divide either one of those numbers by 4. 4 people per household. So 10 million divided by 4 is 2.5 million households. Somewhere, somehow, some way, that shouldn't be here. So if you got 2.4 million that didn't get built, and you got 2.5 million that are occupied somewhat illegally, I don't know. So there's 4 million houses that we don't have available to sell. So it's gonna be a seller's market for a long, long time. Sorry about that.
Well said.
Thank you for that, Steve, and I appreciate you not getting political. Next, we are talking about abortion and thoughts on
The other thing to consider, and even if you want to have this conversation with your clients, and you don't want to go down the road of immigrants and you just don't want to bring that piece up, let's not forget that the population of the United States grows every year. And with just the standard population growth requires that line to exist. So even if you take that out of the conversation, that line that was on the slide that Jamie just jumped out of, that gap, that exists because the population of the United States grows every year. And as a result, we get shorter and shorter. There are less and less houses, and that ultimately, every person that grows, they have to have somewhere to live. And so unless things are being built to meet that population growth, we're struggling. And that line is what we need to be equal. And we're behind that by a significant amount.
Builders have a lot of challenges, regulatory, skyrocketing land costs, volatile market material prices, persistent labor shortages, profit constraints, and shortage of available land.
Virtually impossible to start building 2 million houses here. We don't have enough lumber with drywall, dishwashers, refrigerators, garage doors. It just can't happen. So it's gonna take a long time, and I'm actually gonna have a link in my raw report today to an article that talks about when will we have enough houses.
I think one of the things that Colin talked about in his economy session that he did was going back to the number of homes sold last year, which was the lowest since 98.
Yes.
What was the population in 98
Yes.
versus last year?
Significant,
And I
it
think
was like 100 million people different.
Yeah, and we sold that few homes.
Yeah.
That's a huge number perspective.
Well, good. There's some murmuring that they're gonna do some things to lessen burden on builders, so let's see if that happens. But let's get to, there's a little time left, I totally wanna respect your time, there's like a minute if you guys have something you gotta go do. We have lunch today, again, it's great cereal. And thanks to New American for the cereal this month. And, there's milk too. There's milk. But let's, so feel free, but this is probably more of the stuff right now that's important to you right now. So desire to own a home, reasons for purchasing a home. Let me catch up to my notes here. Reasons for purchasing a home. Well, the biggest reason obviously is just the desire to have one, which I found that kind of interesting that would be a responsibility. You just want to have one. Yeah, that's great. The first step in the home buying process, most people, as you probably understand, looked online. Or they started with an agent. So that's why it's more important that we are the person they think of once they start messing around online. Information buyers use, number one trusted source, you guys. That hasn't changed. Look at that. So talking about your value and knowing your value, are you valuable? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah! Jeez. All right, so you're valuable. Where they found the home they first purchased, of course, on the internet or through the real estate agent or both. Value of website features, I'm just gonna skip that one. Method of home purchase, this is where that one go. 88% of the buyers use the agent, reinforcing the ongoing value of you guys. So anyway, 88% you see there. It hasn't really changed much. I don't know what they were doing in '09, but 88. What buyers want from their agent, I think this is very important. It's interesting, this is a general answer, right? Help me find the right home to purchase. I think most buyers, like all of us, think we can find our own home. We can go into a store and find what we're looking for and then not have anyone assist us as we self-check out, right? However, so what's important to us is obviously that we're reaching out to people, but that they're understanding the value of this. This tells me that the general clients, our clients out there don't understand, how important is this, right? These two are probably the biggest, right? So we gotta make sure they know our value. How they found their agent. Refer, they still the old school, still referrals, right? Or, this is a kicker, 17 just used an agent that they previously worked with. Where is that? Referral rates are at all-time high. Buyer interviews, 79% of the buyers interviewed only one agent. 91% interviewed no more than two. Get in there first. Key takeaway, be first and you'll get the business, as long as you know your business, right? Most important factors for buyers, they trust agents and value the expertise. Their needs haven't changed over time. Home as a financial investment, 80% still believe it's a good investment. 49% believe it's better than stocks. Buyers, repeats, and referrals. Buyers say they would use their agent again 87% of the time, but only 27 do. Think about that. That's a difference of 60%. 60%. So buyers say they'd use their agent again 87%, they only do 27%. Buyers said, what that tells me, yeah, go ahead, please.
That's why you want to attend Jen Toomer's 36 touch plan. Because the difference between those two things is how you're communicating with your clients. And the answer to that is communicate with them regularly and systematically in a way that they value.
Let's see, buyer satisfaction. Only 77% of the buyers report being unsatisfied with their agent, yet they're not going back to them. Sellers found their agent, sphere of influence. Most sellers do not shop around. That's interesting to me too. Seller interviews, 81% of the sellers interviewed only one agent. Winning the listing often means being first. What sellers want from an agent: knowledge, experience, strong negotiation skills. Seller repeats and referrals. Sellers, like buyers, say they would use their agent again. However, only a small percentage actually follow through. Method to sell the home, tradition, agent-assisted sales remain dominant. So give yourselves a round of applause again. Woo! That's lame. It's messy. So that's not one we skipped. So some key takeaways. How shaken you get by the economic news is up to you. Okay? Take information in. But it's just like a, when a light pops on your car and your dashboard, it's meant to just say, hey, be aware of this, but we don't let it drive the car. Okay? So when you're reading and hearing stuff out there, I don't know about you, but for the last whatever years that I've been involved in politics, and I've been on both sides of the aisle, and now I'm kind of in a weird spot, but anyway, it's all the stuff that I did back then didn't make a difference. In fact, it just drove me nuts, and my wife nuts. Well, that doesn't stop, but I still drive her nuts no matter what. So how much did you benefit? How much did you benefit when you were getting worked up about NAR, right? It's meant to give us some energy because we have a concern, but that's them taking action. It's not worrying about it. How has it turned out for your perspective, right? Turned out great. None of the stuff we really worried about, we actually got ourselves in a better position. As trends show, we're close to a breakthrough. Remember that part of it, especially as the normalization of the normal rates normalizes. So as people get more comfortable with what the rates are, and it's going to be anywhere from upper 5s to 7s for potentially here on out, that's good for the market. If you're still a realtor again, give yourselves a round of applause. stay in contact with people. As we learn, they don't use the same realtor usually, so if you're seeing people on your block that have sold, that you know, that sold to someone else, know that, don't give up on that person. They most likely won't use them. So be first. Are you first? If you ain't first, you're last. So just get your buns in the door and be first. All right, thank you all very much. Just want to end with this. And there is a drawing. There is a drawing. What do we got, Kelly, for this book? Start with Y.
Numbers between 1 and 32.
1 and 32. Who is number 24?
24, Tom Rambo.
Oh, Tommy! Where'd he go? There he is. Congratulations. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you being here and investing in yourself. Be here for Mr. Wright's class tomorrow. If you do not have an